In his previous life, our protagonist met a grim and tragic end. Betrayed and heartbroken, he bled out on the cold floor while his girlfriend shamelessly moved on with another man. He lived in a brutal world, one where survival mattered more than human lives and where resources were more precious than loyalty. But fate had something else in store for him. Death wasn't the conclusion to his story. Instead, it marked a new beginning, a second chance to rewrite his destiny and settle the score with those who wronged him. The chaos had already begun to spread. A massive volcano erupted in the heart of a bustling metropolis, shaking the world to its core. Among the fleeing masses was a crowded bus, speeding through streets littered with debris, its passengers desperate to reach the evacuation zone. Just days before, the underwater eruption of Mount Fuji had triggered a devastating earthquake, claiming tens of thousands of lives. Now, smaller cities were also falling victim to escalating natural disasters, forcing residents to abandon their homes. Inside the rushing bus, a woman panicked as she realized she had boarded in such haste that she forgot all her emergency supplies. Resigned, she thought about restocking at the next city, Yangon. But the man sitting beside her shattered her hope with grim news. The warehouses of Walmart and Ali in Zhongnan City had been completely emptied. And worse, even Dongming Lake in Shanong had dried up, and the Darong storage facilities were stripped clean. The woman speculated that the economic damage could reach billions, but the man corrected her. It was already in the trillions. Another passenger, seated just behind them, revealed an even darker truth. He claimed the supply shortages and natural disasters were only the beginning. The world, he said, was on the brink of collapse. His words sent shivers through the bus, though most dismissed him as a doomsayer. One person, however, laughed nervously, claiming to look forward to such an apocalypse where everyone would be equal. The man smirked knowingly. Equality at the end of the world? That's a fantasy. Even in the face of extinction, there's no such thing as true equality. And he would know. He had already lived through it. In his past life, the apocalypse had obliterated everything humans once built. Cities crumbled, infrastructure vanished, and monsters of unimaginable size roamed the earth. For someone like him, a mere delivery worker, the descent into chaos was unimaginable. He remembered the solar flare that triggered everything, a surge of energy so massive it disrupted the planet itself. Temperatures soared, the Earth's crust shifted violently, and long-dormant creatures emerged from underground, turning the world into a battlefield. In this new, savage era, survival depended on resources. Even the smallest item, a pack of instant noodles, a slice of sausage, or a chunk of ice, became a prize worth trading anything for. Yet, this man stood apart from others. He had seen it all before. His name was Suchin, and unlike the others scrambling for survival, he had an edge. This time, he was reborn a month before the apocalypse began. Armed with knowledge of the horrors to come, Suchin vowed to turn his painful experience into power, preparing himself for a future where he would no longer be a victim, but the master of his own fate. As he contemplates his next move, the woman from earlier approaches him, visibly shaken. His previous remarks had unsettled her, and now she's seeking companionship to endure the unfolding chaos. However, she's out of luck. He has no intention of staying by her side. With bigger priorities in mind, he brushes her off and exits the bus once it reaches his stop. In this new world, he knows survival hinges on stockpiling resources, not forming attachments. In his previous life, he squandered precious time scavenging for necessities. This time, he's determined to stay ahead. His destination is the warehouse where he works as a delivery man, a treasure trove of supplies ripe for the taking. Grabbing his work jacket from a hook near the entrance, he strides into the storage area. A coworker at the door reminds him that being just 21 seconds late will cost him half a day's wages. He mumbles an apology before heading in, focused on clearing out the place for himself. During his past life's apocalypse, the warehouse manager fled early, leaving employees stranded and unpaid. Now he considers the stockpile inside as payback. Activating his ability called Space, he summons a massive cubic dimension capable of holding anything he desires. This vast storage realm spans tens of thousands of meters, making it the perfect tool for hoarding resources. With a thought, the space unfurls, and he begins packing up everything in sight. Bags of rice, cooking oil, frozen meat, and even the shelves themselves vanish into his spatial storage. In moments, the warehouse is stripped bare. This ability had been his lifeline in the previous timeline, enabling him to drain lakes, loot cities, and amass critical supplies. Back then, even instant noodles felt like a luxury. Now he can store tons of fresh food preserved in frozen time, ensuring it stays pristine no matter how long it's kept. For the first time, he feels secure. Unlike his previous life, where he survived on scraps, he won't be reduced to desperate measures in this second chance. As he surveys his haul, 3 workers enter the storage room, stunned to find the area completely empty. They spot him standing casually in the middle of the barren space and demand to know where all the supplies have gone. Without hesitation, he admits to taking everything. His bluntness shocks them, and they rush to apprehend him. Yet, before they can get close, he uses his abilities to evade them effortlessly. Dodging their grasp, he smirks and announces his resignation, mockingly adding that he'll never be late again. Just as one of them lunges at him, he activates his teleportation skill and vanishes. Outside, a portal materializes in a nearby alleyway, and he steps out with ease, landing smoothly on the ground. This second ability, called Space Jump, allows him to teleport within a 3-meter radius. It was a lifesaver in his previous life, helping him raid abandoned buildings for supplies and escape dangerous situations, including encounters with mutant beasts. With the warehouse raid complete, he considers his mission a success. Tossing his work jacket into the air, he walks away from the scene. Just then, his phone buzzes with a notification. An emergency alert warns of widespread geological disturbances, causing localized natural disasters. Though the message advises caution, it assures him that day-to-day activities should remain unaffected. The government's official statement urges everyone to stay calm, reassuring the public not to panic. But how can they say that when the world is clearly on the brink of collapse? As Sachin scrolls through his phone, an incoming call snaps him out of his thoughts. The name flashing on the screen, Zhang Xiaoqian, instantly twists his face in revulsion. His hands tremble slightly, his anger barely contained, as he takes a deep breath and reluctantly answers. The moment he places the phone to his ear, her sharp, angry voice cuts through the silence. Xiaoqian wastes no time berating him, furious that he vanished without a word. She's livid about his decision to put his house up for sale, accusing him of being reckless. Mockingly, she questions if he really thinks he'll find someone willing to be with him now that he's selling his home. Xiaoqian isn't just any woman, she's his fiancée. But to Sachin, she's the last person he wants to hear from. On the other end of the line, she applies lipstick in front of a mirror, completely unfazed, while Xiaoyu, a man she's been cheating on Sachin with, lounges casually on the bed behind her. Her insults keep coming, hitting Sachin like a relentless storm. She reminds him of his responsibilities as a man, demanding he give her the house as a gift to show his commitment. Sachin, unfazed by her tirade, listens silently until she pauses. He calmly asks if she's finished and if she has anything else to say. His dismissive tone only fuels her frustration. She gives him an ultimatum: return and transfer the house to her, or she'll call off their engagement. Before hanging up, she announces she's heading back to Xanadu and expects to talk things over when she arrives. Sachin, however, ends the call without a word. His grip on the phone tightens as old memories flood back. In his previous life, he had sacrificed everything for Zhang Xiaoqian during the apocalypse. He scavenged relentlessly, enduring hunger and exhaustion, to keep her safe and fed. He brought her to a secure shelter, giving her a chance to survive when all hope seemed lost. But she repaid his devotion with betrayal. Repeatedly, she cheated on him with Xiaoyu, a violent man who often beat Sachin for returning empty-handed. Xiaoyu accused him of hiding resources, sowing mistrust while shamelessly taking everything Sachin worked for. The ultimate betrayal came one fateful day when Xiaoyu killed Sachin in the very shelter he had built for their safety. With his dying breath, Sachin watched Xiaoyu and Xiaoqian mock him. Xiaoqian even blaming his death on his supposed uselessness. She had no remorse, laughing alongside Xiaoyu as Sachin's life slipped away. But this life is different. Sachin has returned, and he's determined to make them pay for their cruelty. Both Zhang Xiaoqian and Xiaoyu will experience the torment they inflicted on him tenfold. Rage courses through him as he recalls the pain they caused, but he forces himself to breathe and focus. Revenge will come later. Right now, survival is his priority. He needs money to prepare for the apocalypse, and that means selling his house. Without hesitation, Sachin calls his real estate agent, Manager Liu. He offers the house at half its market value, with one non-negotiable condition. He wants the payment in cash, immediately. With the deal set, Sachin heads to Dream Real Estate to finalize the sale. His plan is in motion, and this time, he'll be ready for whatever the world, or his enemies, throw at him. Upon arriving at the location, Suchin finds Xiao Qian waiting outside with Xiao Yu, who's armed with a baseball bat. Unfazed, Suchin walks toward the real estate office, but Xiao Yu steps in his way, demanding to know why Suchin has the audacity to sell their house. Furious, Xiao Yu threatens that Suchin won't live to see another day. Before Xiao Yu can say more, Suchin grabs him by the neck with a swift motion. Lifting the man off the ground effortlessly, he slams him onto the floor. Xiao Qian rushes to intervene, desperately pulling at Suchin's jacket and shouting for help, labeling him a murderer. Without hesitation, Suchin silences her with a backhand slap that sends her sprawling to the ground. Xiao Qian stares up at him, stunned that he dare lay a hand on her. Meanwhile, Xiao Yu writhes on the floor, gasping for air as Suchin maintains his grip on the man's throat. Calmly, Suchin assures Xiao Yu that his suffering won't end too quickly before finally releasing him. Gasping and coughing, Xiao Yu scrambles backward in fear. Xiao Qian rushes to check on her injured lover, but when Suchin turns his cold gaze toward them, she's struck silent. Attempting to reclaim her composure, Xiao Qian demands that Suchin kneel and apologize, threatening to end their engagement if he doesn't comply. Her threats fall flat, though, as a single glare from him freezes both of them in place. Realizing they're outmatched, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu flee, leaving Suchin to handle his affairs in peace. Inside the real estate office, Suchin meets the agent, who eagerly offers him a glass of water. The agent appears thrilled at the prospect of buying Suchin's house at such a low price, internally mocking him for selling a property worth over $1 million for just half its value. Seeing an opportunity for a quick profit, the agent immediately processes the deal, presenting the contract for Suchin to sign. Once the paperwork is complete, Suchin leaves the office with nearly $1 million in his account. Despite the natural disasters wreaking havoc across Asia, earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions, Xanadu remains relatively unaffected. Being an inland city, life there continues with a semblance of normalcy, as the government works hard to maintain public order. As he contemplates his next move, Suchin notices a flyer advertising high-interest loans. An idea sparks, and he decides to leverage his property certificate to secure more funds. He soon finds himself at Great Sea Loans, where he encounters Wang Dahai, a burly man puffing on a cigarette. Unbeknownst to Dahai, he had died early in Suchin's past life, falling victim to mutant beasts during the apocalypse. Dahai evaluates Suchin's property, noting its relatively low value. When asked how much he can borrow, Dahai offers $500,000 in exchange for the property certificate as collateral. Suchin, however, negotiates fiercely, demanding an additional $100,000 upfront. Slamming the property certificate onto the table, he locks eyes with Dahai, sealing the deal with a promise to repay the loan in a week. With this move, Suchin plans to turn the situation to his advantage, profiting handsomely before clearing the debt in full. Dahai finds himself intrigued by the proposal. It's clear that Suchin is no stranger to taking risks. He's the type who would trade anything, even family, if there's a chance for profit. The older man scoffs inwardly, thinking Suchin is foolish for believing he can transform his situation overnight. What he doesn't realize is the extent of Suchin's plan. With a sly grin, Dahai takes a deep drag of his cigarette, weighing the terms of the deal. He tells Suchin he's willing to agree, provided the property certificate is mortgaged with their company. Once that's done, everything else can be worked out. After an intense negotiation, Suchin leaves the office with over $500,000 credited to his account, the second hefty transfer of the day. With this money in hand, he's finally ready to stockpile supplies for the impending apocalypse. Meanwhile, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu stumble through a nearby park, still shaken from their confrontation with Suchin. Xiao Yu is nursing his bruised neck after narrowly escaping death, while Xiao Qian vents her frustrations. All she wants is the house she co-owns with Suchin. To her, that's not too much to ask. Yet when she tried to claim it, Suchin lashed out, and the sting of his slap was still fresh. She's determined to make him pay for that insult, no matter what. Xiao Yu agrees wholeheartedly, grimacing at the pain in his neck. He's already plotting revenge, planning to enlist his older brother's help to settle the score with Suchin. Their conversation takes a sharp turn when they spot Suchin strolling casually down the street, completely unfazed by their earlier encounter. His nonchalant attitude fuels their anger, and they decide to tail him, eager to uncover what he's scheming. Unbothered by their presence, Suchin has his sights set on the next big opportunity to secure resources before civilization collapses. From his memories, he recalls that while many commercial buildings were destroyed by flooding and freezing temperatures, the Green City Hotel stood resilient against all odds. It's his next destination. The hotel's presidential suite is not only luxurious, but also well-equipped with features like a swimming pool, which could be critical for surviving harsh conditions. Suchin sees potential in turning the place into his base of operations. Even better, the hotel's warehouse is stocked with enough food supplies to last for a long time, something he plans to take full advantage of. Upon arriving at the Green City Hotel, Suchin catches the attention of Li Xin-rue, the restaurant manager. She approaches him with a warm smile, asking how she can assist him. Without missing a beat, Suchin announces that he wants to order 1,000 tables of food for a grand banquet, leaving her momentarily stunned by the scale of his request. After collecting herself, Li Xin-rue assures him they can handle such an order but explains the pricing. Each table ranges from 5,000 to 100,000, depending on the selection. Without hesitation, Suchin opts for the 10,000 per table option, bringing the total to a staggering 10 million. He's ready to pay a 50,000 deposit, as long as the banquet is delivered to the address he specifies. Li Xin-rue is taken aback by his confidence and wonders if he's from a wealthy family, a mysterious heir with deep pockets. Little does she know that his audacity stems from juggling massive loans and selling off his house in record time. Impressed nonetheless, she agrees to the terms and escorts him to her office to finalize the payment. Hosting a banquet on this scale isn't cheap. Just the ingredients alone cost 50,000 yuan. But hey, rubbing elbows with the rich is all about making the right impression. As they stroll toward her office, she turns to Suchin with a sly grin and asks, "So, when's the wedding? Because I can't imagine you need this much food just for lunch." Caught off guard but quick on his feet, Suchin decides to roll with it. "Yep, getting married. Big event. You know how it is," he says with the confidence of someone who didn't just make this up on the spot. He even ups the ante by requesting a presidential suite for his honeymoon. Deal sealed, Suchin strides out of the hotel looking like he just won the lottery. Why wouldn't he? He managed to book a 10 million yuan banquet for a measly 50,000 deposit. As for the rest, when the post-apocalyptic heat wave hits, a single block of ice will be worth its weight in gold, or in this case, billions. Inside, the woman is equally pleased. She's convinced Suchin is going all out for his honeymoon and finds herself wondering, whoever's marrying this guy must have hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, Xiao Qian marches into the hotel with the determination of someone ready to start an argument. She corners manager Liu and demands, "Where's Suchin? What's he up to?" The manager, unfazed, raises an eyebrow. "And who might you be?" "I'm his girlfriend," Xiao Qian says, trying to sound authoritative but just coming off a bit smug. Satisfied with her answer, manager Liu spills the beans. Suchin has ordered a banquet with 1,000 tables. Having a boyfriend like that must be a dream, the manager adds with a smile, though internally she's thinking, this girl's barely a 7, and her attitude is a solid 12. How do rich guys always end up with these types? Xiao Qian and the manager are floored by Suchin's extravagant order. "There's no way he's rich," Xiao Qian insists. But manager Liu counters with a theory straight out of a rom-com. Rich people love pretending they're broke to weed out gold diggers, only revealing their wealth at the wedding. Xiao Qian recalls how Suchin had been acting distant, but the manager clinches her argument by showing the 50,000 yuan deposit Suchin made. With their heads spinning, Xiao Qian and the manager leave the hotel, questions piling up like overdue bills. Why would Suchin need such an extravagant banquet? Xiao Qian wonders aloud. Then it hits her. This must be his way of introducing her to his lavish world. Clearly, he's just waiting for the right moment to sweep her off her feet and into his luxurious life. Determined, Xiao Qian vows to create the perfect opportunity to win him back. Her imagination runs wild. Designer outfits, a sprawling mansion, butlers addressing her as madam, and maids waiting on her hand and foot. The fantasy is so vivid she's practically drooling. "I can't believe I almost let this golden goose fly away," she mutters. Back at his old home, Suchin resumes his no-cost shopping plan. Let's call it what it is, straight-up stealing with zero intention of ever paying it back. While some essentials are still missing, his wallet is tapped out, so he hatches a new plan: loan apps. For the next few hours, Suchin turns his phone into a loan machine, downloading over 80 apps and taking enough selfies to rival an Instagram influencer. After a marathon session of borrowing, he racks up 970,000 yuan. Not bad for an afternoon's work. Exhausted, he collapses on his bed, groaning, "Why does survival feel like a full-time job?" But there's no time to rest. The apocalypse won't wait, and he still needs to buy fireplaces, smokeless coal, ice blocks, and more. Thankfully, online shopping is a lifesaver, and express delivery ensures he'll get everything just in time to face the end of the world. He orders 2,000 tons of smokeless coal with a 500,000 yuan deposit and books massive ice deliveries. Some companies insist on meeting him in person, so he drags himself outside for more negotiations. The moment he steps out, though, he's greeted by a new face and an old headache. Standing there is Lena, Xiao Qian's best friend and the genius who thought introducing them was a great idea. Fantastic, Suchin mutters under his breath. Just what I needed, another apocalypse. With a cheerful smile, she approaches him, her friend trailing close behind. She starts by mentioning how much his girlfriend has missed him. Unfazed, he responds with a sharp question. Was it him she missed, or was it his house? Lena, quick to defend her friend, chimes in, insisting that Suchin's girlfriend was merely testing him. Then, she shifts gears, accusing him of being oblivious to how unhappy Xiao Qian has been without him. Seizing the moment, Xiao Qian clings to Suchin's arm, her demeanor shifting to one of desperation. She apologizes for her harsh words the previous day, asking him to join her for a walk, hoping to smooth things over. But Suchin remains unimpressed. Gently prying her hand off his arm, he informs her he's busy and suggests she take the walk alone. Xiao Qian is stunned by his aloofness, but Li Na nudges her out of her thoughts, pointing to a taxi Suchin is boarding. Li Na speculates it could be one last test of Xiao Qian's commitment and urges her to follow him in another cab to find out where he's headed. Suchin's destination turns out to be an ice factory, where he meets with the manager to finalize an order. The manager, surprised by Suchin's youth, greets him warmly. They shake hands, and Suchin promptly inquires about the timeline for producing and delivering 2,000 tons of ice. The manager proudly assures him that their factory is among the most efficient in the region and promises delivery in 3 days. The cost? A hefty 800,000 yuan. Unfazed, Suchin hands over a 100,000 yuan deposit and provides the delivery address. The manager, curious about the massive order, asks if it's for a large event. Perhaps it's a regular occurrence? Suchin, unable to disclose the real reason, fabricates a story about donating the ice to a Lasson for charity. The manager, though surprised, accepts the explanation. After all, business is business. As Suchin leaves in his taxi, the manager marvels at the young man's apparent affluence and purpose. Shortly after, another taxi pulls up, catching the manager's attention. Out step Xiao Qian and Lena, who quickly approach him. Xiao Qian introduces herself as Suchin's fiancée and demands to know what transpired. Skeptical, the manager hesitates, but eventually divulges that Suchin placed an order for 800,000 yuan worth of ice. The revelation shocks the pair. Lena immediately jumps to the conclusion that Suchin must belong to a wealthy, second-generation elite. She presses the manager about Suchin's intentions with the ice, and the manager repeats what he was told, that it's a charitable donation. The answer leaves them baffled. Meanwhile, Suchin, having secured his preparations for the impending apocalypse, decides to indulge himself for once. In his past life, he had been too consumed by work to enjoy even simple pleasures. This time, he heads to a high-end restaurant to savor some luxury. A waitress greets him warmly and hands him a menu filled with tempting options. Everything from butter chicken to smoked steak, each dish priced in the thousands. One item in particular catches his eye, a mystery dish costing 17,000 yuan. Intrigued, he asks about it, and the waitress explains that it's a signature creation by the head chef, designed entirely based on the chef's inspiration. Curiosity piqued, Suchin orders it. He recalls how, in his previous life, the apocalypse had unleashed monstrous creatures and deadly mutations. Preparedness was key, yet for now, he allowed himself to enjoy a fleeting moment of peace. Moments later, a striking woman with pink hair approaches his table, carrying the dish. Introducing herself as the head chef, she describes the meal she's crafted for him. Dual-fed life. A unique steak dish with 2 distinct preparations. One side seared in brown butter, and the other wrapped in puff pastry and deep-fried. Suchin immediately recognizes her. In his past life, she was known as Hell's Chef, Duanya, famed for her uncanny ability to transform monster flesh into irresistible dishes. However, those who consumed her creations rarely survived due to the mutations within. As she presents the dish, she notices his wary expression and assures him there's no poison involved, elaborating on the dish's exquisite flavors. Masking his thoughts, Suchin takes a bite. The taste is extraordinary, easily worth the steep price. Still, he can't shake the thought of how useful her skills would be in the apocalypse. If only he could trust her completely. Outside the restaurant, Xiao Qian and Li Na observe the luxurious venue with envy. They speculate about Suchin's wealth, convinced he's living a life of extravagance. Xiao Qian dreams of becoming a rich wife, determined that when she does, she'll be able to care for her sisters with ease. As part of his exploration of the city, Suchin finds himself at Arya Scan's bar, nestled within the luxurious Golden Sails vault of Xanadu. In his previous life, Suchin had always longed to experience high-end spots like this, but never got the chance. With the looming apocalypse, he knows such places won't exist for long. Determined to savor the moment, he immerses himself in the vibrant atmosphere, soaking in every detail. Just as he settles down, a lively group of girls takes the seats beside him. They invite him to join their drinking session, and he agrees without hesitation. However, amidst their animated chatter, one girl stands out. She seems out of place, her subdued demeanor contrasting sharply with her friend's enthusiasm. Intrigued, Suchin observes her closely. Her friends soon explain her situation. Her name is Yun Yun, and this is her first time at a club. They brought her here to lift her spirits after a nasty breakup. Apparently, her boyfriend not only refused to be intimate with her, but also betrayed her with an older woman. Yun Yun's heartbreak is palpable as she downs an entire glass of alcohol in one go, slamming it onto the table with frustration. Then, in a bold move, she turns to Suchin, asking if he's single and suggesting they have some fun together. Her friends cheer her on, egging her to let loose. Before Suchin can respond, he spots Xiao Qian and Li Na entering the bar. The two girls immediately notice him and Yun Yun sitting together. Sensing potential trouble, Suchin acts quickly. Placing a comforting hand on Yun Yun's shoulder, he gently leads her upstairs, away from the bustling crowd and the prying eyes of Xiao Qian and Li Na. The two girls, realizing his intentions, begin chasing after him, calling out as he navigates the club's labyrinthine halls. He eventually ducks into a random room, locking the door behind them. Yun Yun, unfazed by the commotion, focuses entirely on him. She shows clear interest in him, her sadness mingling with her desire for comfort. Suchin, however, has no intention of taking advantage of someone in her vulnerable state. Instead, he lightly flicks her forehead, a playful yet firm gesture. He advises her to stop frequenting places like this, suggesting she focus on preparing for what's to come. He even recommends stocking up on food, hinting at the impending apocalypse. Still, he realizes that his advice might not matter. Her future, like everyone else's, is already on borrowed time. Deciding it's time to leave, Suchin sneaks out of the room. He spots Xiao Qian and Li Na rampaging through the club, kicking down doors in their frantic search for him. Their relentless pursuit leaves him no room to enjoy the evening, so he slips out of the bar and heads home, eager to escape their chaos and unwind. The following day, a convoy of delivery trucks arrives at a warehouse Suchin had rented in the suburbs. They unload a wide range of goods, including smokeless charcoal, ice, and other essential supplies. Suchin oversees the operation, directing the workers to specific areas inside the warehouse. One trucker, noticing the lack of refrigeration, expresses concern about the ice melting, but Suchin assures him it won't be an issue. Meanwhile, Xiao Yu informs Xiao Qian about Suchin's recent activities, mentioning the large warehouse and the heavy machinery being moved into it. Intrigued, Xiaoan teams up with Li Na to investigate. When they arrive, they're greeted by an extravagant sight, an elaborate banquet from the Green City Hotel being set up, complete with a red carpet. To Xiaoan and Lina, the scene resembles preparations for a grand wedding after-party. Convinced that Suchin is planning to propose, Li Na excitedly speculates about the details of the event. Xiao Qian, maintaining her pride, insists that even if he proposes, she might not accept, though her curiosity betrays her interest. As they confront Suchin, Xiao Qian demands to know why he's stockpiling so many supplies and what he plans to do with them. Suchin, however, remains cryptic, inviting her to help move the goods into the warehouse if she wants answers. Outraged at the idea of manual labor, Xiao Qian protests, claiming she's destined to live a luxurious life, not do menial work. Lina, however, persuades her, framing it as a test of her worthiness to become a rich lady. Reluctantly, Xiao Qian lifts a heavy box, determined to prove she's more than just a delicate woman. Li Na joins in, motivated by the possibility of securing her own future with Suchin. Amused, Suchin watches as the two girls struggle with the demanding work. Though the hotel staff also lends a hand, the sheer volume of supplies ensures the task lasts all day. By evening, the work is finally complete. Exhausted and frustrated, Xiao Qian and Li Na collapse on the floor. Convinced they've passed Suchin's test, Xiao Qian, envisioning a grand proposal, eagerly awaits her reward. Li Na, equally hopeful, imagines herself as the bride in a lavish wedding. However, their dreams are shattered when Suchin casually thanks them for their help, clarifies that they won't be paid, and tells them to leave. Xiao Qian, desperate for answers, confronts him, asking where the guests are and why there's no proposal. Suchin, suppressing his amusement, explains that everything she assumed was purely her own delusion. Furious, Xiao Qian accuses him of leading her on, but Suchin remains unfazed. He coldly dismisses her as a gold digger, making it clear he never had any interest in her. Humiliated, Xiao Qian storms off, vowing to make him regret his actions. Li Na follows, but not before issuing her own empty threat. Unbothered by their antics, Suchin locks himself inside the warehouse. Surrounded by his stockpile of supplies, he feels a sense of satisfaction. With the nuisances gone and his preparations complete, he awaits the apocalypse. Activating his infinite storage, he secures the resources, ready for the challenges. With everything settled, Suchin made his way back to the Green City Hotel, ready to enjoy another relaxing meal while waiting for civilization to collapse. Sitting comfortably in the hotel lobby, he savored his food, letting the calm atmosphere sink in. But that peace was soon interrupted when a loud group of people walked in, people he recognized immediately. Dahai, speaking in a reassuring tone, told Xiao Qian that all she had to do was follow Xiaoyu to find the good life she had been searching for in Xanadu. His words carried weight, and with his influence, he could take care of her. The younger man took this moment to chime in, making a show of his affection. He promised Xiao Qian that he would make up for all the mistreatment she suffered under Suchin, boldly claiming that she should have left that so-called abuser long ago and chosen him instead. Xiao Qian, easily swayed, fell for his words and allowed him to hold her as they walked into the hotel. Xiaoyu reassured her that his older brother would do everything in his power to take revenge on Suchin for her. In her eyes, Xiaoyu wasn't so bad, and with a powerful and wealthy older brother on his side, sticking with him seemed far better than wasting time on someone like Suchin. The noise in the lobby finally became too much, and Suchin, wiping his mouth calmly, spoke up. He remarked on how Xiao Qian really wasn't picky when it came to who she clung to. His sudden voice sent a shock through her, and she froze in place. Seeing this as his chance, Xiaoyu quickly turned to his older brother and pointed at Suchin, claiming that this was the man who dared to attack him. At that moment, Dahai recognized Suchin as well. This was the same man he had lent a massive loan to not too long ago. He had already been planning to track him down, but now that he realized the one who harassed his brother was also his debtor, he had even bigger plans for him. Xiaoyu, surprised by the connection, looked between his brother and Suchin. Dahai smirked as he explained to his younger brother that Suchin was the same person who had mortgaged his house and borrowed over $500,000 from him. And as fate would have it, tomorrow was repayment day. Now, both brothers had reasons to settle things with Suchin. Xiao Qian, hearing all this, couldn't hide her disgust. The mere fact that Suchin had the audacity to borrow money from Dahai made her sick. There was no way he'd ever be able to clear such a massive debt in this lifetime. Luckily for her, she had distanced herself from him before getting dragged into his mess. Despite all the hostility directed at him, Suchin remained unfazed. Finishing his meal, he calmly wiped his mouth, paying no attention to the growing tension in the room. Dahai, however, wasn't about to let that slide. Leaning in, he loomed over Suchin, reminding him of his pending repayment. He couldn't possibly be sitting here, enjoying himself in a luxury hotel, when the man he owed so much money to was standing right in front of him. Xiaoyu, losing patience, snapped that Suchin wouldn't be able to pay the money back no matter what. Since he was right here, they might as well deal with him now. Behind him, a group of thugs grinned menacingly, clearly eager to get their hands on Suchin. Just as the situation grew tense, Manager Louis stepped in, trying to pacify everyone before things escalated further. Dahai, arms crossed, agreed to talk things out, on one condition. If Suchin knelt down and apologized to him and his brother, they would consider settling things peacefully. Manager Louis, frowning, turned to Suchin for an explanation. But Suchin simply dismissed the whole ordeal, calling them nothing more than pests. The casual remark struck a nerve with Dahai, and his expression darkened. With a loud slam, he brought his heavy hand down onto the table, making the plates and glasses tremble. He had been showing basic respect to Suchin until now, but this was the last straw. Today he was done playing nice. No amount of smooth talking or tricks would save Suchin from what was coming next. At least, that's what he thought, until the restaurant doors swung open and a group of newcomers walked in. A commanding voice cut through the tension, demanding to know what was going on. Both Dahai and Suchin immediately recognized the intimidating man before them. His name is Gao Chong, and in Suchin's past life, he was known as the Skull Crusher. Alongside the chef, he had been a formidable force in the post-apocalyptic world of Xanadu. Suchin had even heard rumors that after the apocalypse, the Green City Hotel was the very first place where mutations began. It was highly likely that Gao Chong's terrifying skull-crushing abilities had developed because he was inside the hotel when the mutation started. For now, though, Gao Chong was merely a well-known entrepreneur in Xanadu, with a vast network of underground connections and countless people under his command. As the chaos in the hotel finally settled, his sharp gaze landed on Suchin, noticing the peculiar way he was looking at him. However, with no further disturbances in his hotel, Gao Chong simply continued with his business. He led Duanya to an office within the hotel, where a man named Mr. Sun was already waiting for them, pouring himself a glass of wine. The chef observed Mr. Sun carefully, wondering what exactly he wanted to discuss with her. The man wasted no time in revealing his intentions, expressing how he had heard about her renowned beauty and was eager to finally meet her in person. With a smile, he offered her a drink. But as she looked down at the glass, her stomach churned. She could clearly see that something had been dissolved into the liquid. Meanwhile, in his luxurious presidential suite, Suchin swirled his own glass of wine absent-mindedly. In his previous life, he had hidden in a basement with Xiaoqian, barely surviving the unbearable heat of the apocalypse. He had never expected that, at this moment in time, he would have already distanced himself from her, only for her to end up following him around anyway. Either way, it was a golden opportunity to settle old scores and take his revenge. Outside, Xiaoyu and the others were playing in the pool, unaware of his presence. Two men, already in their swimsuits, stood nearby, waiting for the women to join them. Dahai commented on how the air had been getting noticeably hotter lately, even more so at night than during the day. That was precisely why Xiaoyu had suggested a night swim, to cool off. Of course, seeing the girls in their swimsuits was just an added bonus for them, and the very thought of it made them giddy with excitement. They even hugged each other in joy at their own brilliant idea. As the two girls made their way toward the pool, they couldn't help but notice that the moon appeared unusually bright. Upon reaching the water, Xiaoyu took Xiaoqian's hand and, with dramatic flair, declared that his love for her shines brighter than the moon itself. But Xiaoqian had no interest in his pointless romantic gestures. She was far too hot and just wanted to get into the water. Upstairs, Suchin watched them with amusement, chuckling to himself. The bright red hue of the moon confirmed what he already knew. The apocalypse was about to begin. He raised his glass in the air, taking a slow sip, as if to toast the start of the end of the world. Then, in an instant, the moon erupted in a brilliant, burning heat. The four people outside barely had time to react before an intense wave of scorching energy crashed down upon them. Panic set in, and they immediately bolted toward the hotel lobby, but Dahai was too slow. The burning moonlight intensified, and within moments, their skin began to sear under the heat. Inside the hotel, the sudden brightness outside was impossible to ignore. It was as if daylight had arrived in the dead of night. Dahai's men, noticing the eerie glow, wondered aloud if he was all right. One of them casually dismissed the concern, joking that he was probably just off somewhere flirting with the girls, lost in his own happiness. Their laughter was cut short when Xiaoqian, Xiaoyu, and Lena suddenly burst into the hotel lobby, looking like they had barely escaped a fight for their lives. They collapsed onto the floor, their bodies red and burnt, desperately searching for anything that could help them cool down. In a frantic attempt to soothe their burning skin, Xiaoyu spotted a large fish tank. Without hesitation, the three of them plunged into the water, struggling to catch their breath. But there wasn't enough space for all of them, and soon they were arguing over who could stay submerged and who had to get out. Dahai's men watched the chaotic scene in utter confusion, unable to comprehend what had just happened. More importantly, they noticed that Dahai was nowhere to be seen. That's when Xiaoyu's expression darkened. He realized, with horror, that they had left his brother outside. But by the time he looked back, it was already too late. Dahai's condition was far worse than theirs. His skin was burned beyond recognition, covered in grotesque blisters. The panic inside the hotel escalated as everyone rushed to his side, desperately trying to help before he collapsed completely. While chaos unfolds downstairs, Suchin sleeps soundly in his well-air-conditioned room, completely unaware of the disaster outside. Meanwhile, breaking news flashes across the TV screens, warning citizens about a deadly temperature anomaly that has already claimed nearly 100 lives. Authorities urge people to stay indoors to avoid skin and respiratory burns. But the situation worsens. Before long, the extreme heat overloads the city's power grid, causing a massive blackout. Dahai, who had been trying to call the driver back, keeps dialing, but the call never connects. It becomes clear that the driver is gone for good. On top of that, every single room in the hotel is fully booked, leaving Dahai and his group with no choice but to take the last available room. Unfortunately for them, they have to share it with Xiaoqian and Lina. The two women are far from pleased and immediately start complaining, demanding a separate room. But before their argument can escalate further, the power cuts out completely. With no electricity, the air conditioning stops, and the temperature inside the building begins rising at an alarming rate. If they stay inside for too long, they'll suffocate. Desperate, the men strip off their clothes, trying to find a way to cool down. That's when Xiaoan suddenly remembers Suchin had booked the presidential suite, and it even had a pool. If they kicked him out, they could take over his room for themselves. While the others suffer, Suchin enjoys a peaceful night, swimming in his private pool. In his past life, he knew that the city's electrical grid had serious faults due to poor maintenance. No matter how much manpower was put into repairs, the power always failed. Because of that, he made sure to book a room with a pool this time. Not only that, but he also prepared multiple vertical air conditioners with large backup batteries to keep the temperature at a comfortable level. Using his spatial abilities, he summons blocks of ice and a lavish spread of food, planning to start the first day of the apocalypse with a simple breakfast. Just as he's about to eat, a loud knock echoes through the room. When he opens the door, the desperate group outside is immediately hit by the cool air from inside. Their eyes widen at the sight of the neatly lined-up air conditioners and the massive ice blocks keeping the room chilled. The women don't hesitate to start shouting, furious that he's living in luxury while they're practically roasting alive. They demand that he hand over the room. Dahai, stepping forward, reminds Su-chun that he owes a significant debt to his business. According to him, the easiest way to pay off the interest from the past few days is to hand over the presidential suite. If Su-chun refuses, he threatens to throw him out by force. But Su-chun has no intention of giving in. Without hesitation, he pulls out a gun, raising it as a warning. Before Dahai can react, a loud gunshot rings out, and pain shoots through his stomach. He clutches the wound in shock, eyes wide with disbelief. But Su-chun isn't done. Since they're still standing at his doorway, he fires again, this time hitting Dahai's leg. Coldly, he tells them that he'll count to 3. If they're still standing there when he's done, he won't hesitate to fire again. That's all the warning they need. Without another word, the group scrambles away, disappearing as fast as they can. Meanwhile, back in the hotel lobby, tensions rise as Gao Chong demands an explanation. There's no food left in the entire hotel, and he wants to know why. The hotel manager, sweating nervously, explains that a few days ago, someone booked 1,000 tables for a banquet, nearly depleting their entire food supply. A fresh delivery was scheduled for today, but with the extreme heat wave, it never arrived. Hearing this, Mr. Sun makes his move. He demands that all the remaining food and water be handed over to him instead. But the desperate crowd isn't having it. Furious, they surge toward him, ready to fight. Sun, however, barely lifts a finger. His thugs step in just in time, shielding him from the enraged mob. While chaos erupts around him, he simply leans back, completely unfazed, watching as his men struggle to keep the crowd at bay. The chaos erupted in an instant. A group of people stormed into the hotel lobby, shouting that Su-chun had tried to kill someone. Gao Chong's sharp eyes quickly landed on Dahai, who was badly wounded, gunshot wounds, no less. He knew that very few people had access to firearms. That could only mean one thing: a dangerous individual was living upstairs. Before anyone could fully grasp the situation, Xiaoqian stepped forward, dropping a bombshell of her own. She announced that Su-chen's room wasn't just an ordinary one. It had electricity, air conditioning, and even a swimming pool. The revelation stunned everyone. As if that wasn't enough, she swore she had seen it all with her own eyes. Plenty of food, ice cubes, everything they could only dream of in this suffocating heat. Compared to the sauna-like conditions of the hotel lobby, his room was nothing short of paradise. The crowd didn't need any more convincing. Greedy desperation filled their eyes as they rallied together, determined to take what Su Chan had for themselves. Gao Chong, watching the growing frenzy, ordered his men to follow the mob and ensure that Su Chen gave up his room, no matter what. When they finally reached Su Chen's door, the moment it swung open, a wave of cool, refreshing air greeted them. It was like stepping into another world. The suffocating heat outside made it all the more irresistible. The crowd instantly began pleading, practically begging him to let them stay inside. Meanwhile, a small child peeked his head inside, eyes scanning the room. He was searching for the fried chicken Xiaoqian had mentioned earlier. And then he saw it. Without hesitation, the boy bolted inside, his hunger overpowering any sense of caution. But before he could reach his prize, a sharp kick struck his stomach, sending him flying back into the mob. The room went silent for a split second before the crowd erupted into a full-blown frenzy. Kicking a child? That was the final straw. A man like Su Chen didn't deserve to live in luxury while they suffered. Fueled by anger, they rushed forward, ready to tear him apart. But Su Chen was faster. He pulled out a gun and fired blindly into the crowd. The deafening gunshot silenced the mob as one of the people at the back collapsed lifelessly onto the floor. The air was thick with tension as Su Chen coldly reminded them. He may be alone, but they only had one life. Meanwhile, downstairs, Xiaoyu's world shattered the moment he laid eyes on his brother's lifeless body, lying outside under the scorching sun. The brutal heat had already begun to rot the wound. There was no medicine, no chance of saving him. It was too late. His brother was gone. Xiaoyu screamed in agony, his grief turning into pure rage. His men held him back, but his mind was already made up. He knew exactly who was responsible, Su Chen, the man who had fired the fatal shot. Upstairs, however, Su Chen was facing an entirely different battle. Xiaoqian and Lina were using a different approach, attempting to seduce him with sweet words and pleading eyes. They reminded him of how much they loved him, insisting he hadn't actually meant to kill anyone. He was just trying to scare Dahai and his men. They begged him to let them in, promising they would do whatever he wanted. Su Chen saw the desperation in their eyes. He weighed his options for a moment before finally deciding. He would let them in, but before they could step inside, Xiaoyu came charging through, his entire being fueled by revenge. His only goal was to kill Su Chen and avenge his brother. That was the moment Su Chen snapped. His voice rang out like a death sentence. Anyone who crossed his door would die. He grabbed a baseball bat, swinging it with full force, and sent Xiaoyu flying. The impact was brutal. Xiaoyu crashed backward, slamming into the two women, knocking them all to the ground. Now that they had seen his raw violence firsthand, the girls no longer wanted anything to do with him. The fear in their eyes was unmistakable. Su Chen didn't hesitate. He told them to get lost. Scrambling to their feet, they dragged the unconscious Xiaoyu away, terrified to stay a second longer. As they disappeared down the hall, Su Chen glanced up at the armed surveillance system mounted inside his door. A cold smirk crossed his lips. If they hadn't left on their own, the system would have taken them out, whether or not they managed to kill him in the process. Outside, a convoy of heavily armed military vehicles rumbled down the burning streets, heading straight for the hotel. Their tires had been modified into treads, and their windows were insulated, ensuring the rescue team could survive the perilous journey to and from their destination. As the convoy reached the hotel, one of the vehicles came to a halt in front of the entrance. Armed men in insulated suits stepped out, moving with urgency as they entered the hotel lobby. Their purpose was clear. They immediately called out for Lu Django from the academy, their voices cutting through the tense atmosphere. From within the anxious crowd, Lu Django stepped forward. The rescue team had come for him and him alone. Without hesitation, they handed him an insulated suit, instructing him to put it on so he could leave with them. As a geological expert, his knowledge was crucial in stopping the ongoing disaster. The rest of the people in the lobby, however, erupted into protests. Why were they rescuing only one person while the rest remained trapped in the hotel? Desperation and anger filled the air as voices rose in frustration. One of the soldiers stepped forward and addressed the crowd, informing them that the authorities had already launched a separate rescue operation. It was scheduled for midnight, the coldest time of the day. He assured them that once night fell, they could all make their way to Silicon Valley Plaza, where they would find the designated rescue point. Relief washed over most of the trapped survivors. Knowing that help was on the way, they celebrated the hope of finally escaping. However, not everyone was satisfied. Mr. Sun, one of the desperate survivors, rushed toward one of the insulated guards, demanding a suit so he could leave with them. But the soldier easily restrained him, showing no intention of breaking protocol. Frustrated and unwilling to accept his fate, Mr. Sun turned to Gao Chong, ordering him to snatch an insulated suit. But before they could make a move, multiple guns were already aimed in their direction, freezing them in place. The soldiers turned to leave, but just as they were about to exit, Xiao Qian called out, stopping them in their tracks. She pointed upstairs and informed them that there was a murderer hiding in the building. Lena quickly backed her up, urgently adding that the man was armed and had already killed several people. They barely escaped with their lives. Hearing this, one of the soldiers, Xiao Feng, made a decision. He would stay back to investigate the situation. His fellow soldiers warned him against acting impulsively, reminding him that their mission came first. But Xiao Feng declined their concerns, assuring them that he would contact them once he had handled the situation. Without hesitation, he turned and headed up the stairs. Xiao Qian watched him go, a satisfied smile creeping onto her face. Once Su Chun was shot dead, she could simply stay in her room and wait for the rescue team. Xiao Feng moved cautiously as he approached the presidential suite, his instincts on high alert. But as he neared the door, something caught his eye, a small camera hidden among the plants in the corner, watching him. His mind barely had time to register the trap before the door suddenly swung open. 2 bombs were thrown out. The first was a flash bomb, and in an instant, a blinding light exploded in front of him, searing his vision. The second was tear gas, engulfing him in a choking cloud that burned his throat and eyes. Coughing violently, he struggled to regain his senses. But before he could react, a figure emerged from the haze. Su Chun. With a brutal swing, Su Chun brought a baseball bat down on Xiao Feng, the impact knocking him out cold. When Xiao Feng finally regained consciousness, the first thing he noticed was the cool temperature of the room, a stark contrast to the burning world outside. His head throbbed from the blow, and his body felt weak. As his senses slowly returned, he realized something else. He was tied to a chair. His military uniform was gone, leaving him stripped down to his underwear. His armor, his weapons, everything had been taken. Across the room, Su Chun stood calmly, holding his confiscated gun while flipping through his military ID. Now that Xiao Feng was awake, Su Chun could finally talk. But before he could say anything, Xiao Feng, despite his situation, couldn't help but voice the thought lingering in his mind. How did an ordinary man manage to get his hands on so many ice cubes and working air conditioning in a place like this? And more importantly, where did he get all those weapons and flash bombs? Su Chun casually mentions that he's a recent graduate and got the guns and supplies during a trip to the Middle East. The story sounds completely unbelievable, but there's nothing the protagonist can do to change that, so he shifts the conversation to more pressing matters. He asks about government rescue points, wanting to know if there's a plan in place for citizens. The soldier is visibly shocked that he even knows about that, but Su Chun doesn't press further. Instead, he explains something even more critical. Being exposed to moonlight for more than 10 minutes can cause people to faint, leading to mass casualties on the way to safety. Xiao Feng acknowledges this concern, but states that there's no alternative. Safe zones have already been established, and rescue vehicles have been modified for the conditions. The only thing citizens need to do is make it to the designated rescue points on their own. As long as they wear insulated blankets, they should be able to survive the walk. Su Chun listens carefully, then suddenly places a hand on the soldier's shoulder. In a swift motion, he moves behind him, pressing a gun against the back of his head. The soldier freezes, begging for a moment to explain himself, pleading not to be killed. But instead of pulling the trigger, Su Chun simply cuts the ropes and sets him free. He respects the soldier's work and decides to let him go, but not without a warning. He points to the mounted guns on the ceiling, making it clear that if anyone comes after him again, those guns will activate, and no one will survive except him. The soldier understands the message loud and clear. He leaves peacefully, but not before all his weapons are confiscated. Down in the lobby, the people watch the soldier leave confused. He says nothing about what happened, only advising them to wear insulated blankets on their way to the rescue point. Tension rises as Mr. Sun, furious at how things are unfolding, slaps Gao Chong in anger, blaming him for everything going wrong. The others watch in frustration, wondering how much longer they'll have to put up with this arrogant man.